Alright, time to take a look at the next faction carrier. This is the Vassago. Now, the name Vassago basically means fallen angel, and we all know that the angel ships are named after angels, so I guess that's the right way to do it. Now, this ship does look very nice. The angel pattern does suit the carrier quite well, and of course, there are some new added structures on the hull of this ship to make it look unique. But overall, I'm very excited to see how this thing will perform. I expect the angel carrier to be very fast. Now let's take a look at the basic info. The roll bonus will give you plus 400% endless link activation time, jump drive is available, can fit mothership defense modules, can fit carrier hangar modification systems, minus 60% lightweight fighter commander. Now, something is missing here. Where is the default angel roll bonus for warp speed and damage control? Now let me show you what I'm talking about. Let's go to the tech tree and let's go to the angel cartel. Now all angel ships have this roll bonus. This is the Dramiel, roll bonus is available on that ship. This is the roll bonus on the Cyndavel, it's basically the same. The roll bonus on the Macariel, also the same. But the roll bonus is not in the roll bonus of the Vassago, which is very interesting. But is the roll bonus completely gone? Well, let's find out. Perhaps it's hidden somewhere in this long skill description. The lightweight ship bonus will give you plus 10% lightweight ship turret damage, plus 10% lightweight ship rocket damage. Versatile assault ship combos will give you plus 5% lightweight ship flight velocity, plus 5% flight velocity. Versatile assault defense upgrade bonus will give you plus 5% on the shield extender bonus, minus 5% shield extender capacity unit, plus 5% armor plate hit point bonus, and minus 5% armor plate capacity unit. So this indicates that you can build the Vassago to be a shield tank or an armor tank, depends on your skills and depends what your preferred tank type is. Team combat bonus will give you plus 5% carrier defense, mothership shield resistance, plus 5% armor resistance, plus 75% carrier defense module damage transfer ratio. Again, it can be both a shield or armor tank, which is very nice. So far one of the most unique carriers in the game. And the advanced carrier command bonus is the roll bonus of the angel ships. You basically get the extra warp, extra acceleration, and you get the damage control activation time. So the Vassago does have the angel stats. It's just hidden in the carrier command bonus. It's not the roll bonus, but transferred to be a skill per roll bonus, which is interesting. Very interesting description of this beautiful carrier. Very curious to see how it will perform. Now the Vassago has 2 frigate slots, 1 destroyer slot for medium, 8 low slots, 3 combat and 3 engineering rigs, a little bit above 1 million hit points. The Vassago can be both a shield or armor tank, basically the same as the other angel ships. They can also be a shield or armor tank. 57,000 gigajoules is the capacitor. The recharge time and the recharge rate look pretty nice. It can lock 8 targets, 8 kilometers unit radius, the smallest unit radius out of all the other faction carriers. And well, as expected, this thing is pretty fast for its size. So overall, very interesting description for the Vassago. Now on to the build. So I have 4,300 DPS. The swarm carrier defense is here. It has 25% on armor and shield, which is very nice. In my case, this is a shield tank, although you can make this thing work as an armor tank as well. Overall, very interesting how this works. 1 scrambler and 1 web, but you can fit any other module that you like. And in the ship section, I have 2 slash interceptors, and you can see the damage that they're doing. They're quite fast. They orbit at 10.4 kilometers, which is right about their optimal range. 13 kilometers is scrambler range. They are fast and they have decent range. Over here you can read to see what other weapons they have. They use turrets, and your skill level does affect the performance of these ships, which is very nice. I have one bomber here that does missile damage. Again, here you can take a look at the stats. Overall, it looks very nice. The explosion velocity could be better, but I guess that's what we have at the moment. And here you can also read about the Hound's weapons. It uses small missiles. And I have one Thrasher, one Destroyer, because why not? Also does some good damage. It also uses projectile turrets, small ones, and the skills of the pilot do affect the damage output of these ships. So you have to have frigate skills as well as carrier skills in order to operate these monsters. Now, I have triple adaptives, one reactive, one damage control, one capacitor battery, and dual boosters. This became basically my basic setup on these carriers. They have very nice resistances and they don't take much damage, so one battery was usually more than enough. But of course, if you don't like one battery, you can use multiple ones. Now, as for the rigs, I did go with 4P comm integration modules, and they're built for maximum possible resistance. And I also did reduce the shield booster capacitor, as well as improving the shield booster cycle. And the shield boosters do work really well on this ship. Now, in the engineering rigs, I have capacitor rigs. Although you can go with integrations for the rigs, because why not? And here I have the bipolar experimental hangar, which reduces one medium slot but gives you one frigate launch bay, which is nice. Overall, you can use both the mono or the bipolar one, but in the end both are nice and both have their respective use. Okay, let's undock and let me show you how this thing works outside. Now, of course, before I undock, let me refuel, because the defense module runs on fuel. Move to the Vassago. Okay. Okay. The ship has decent amount of fuel in the cargo hold, and let's undock. This is overall a very nice looking ship. Okay, well, let's orbit the station. And let's rearrange the modules into the setup that I like, because the game never does that for some reason. I have to do it myself every time with every ship. Although I did set everything up before starting, but you know, the game said nope, you have to readjust the modules twice. Okay, adaptives on. This requires fuel. Let's refuel this beautiful ship. Okay, refueled. And now I can use the module. The damage control is over there. Okay. And this is exactly the setup that I like to have. Okay, nice. So, let's take a look at the active stats. 5.6 million. I like how this angel ship has like 666 in the hit points. Very interesting. The number of the beast right there. Although this is the angel ship, kind of ironic. Overall decent stats. 7.3 million. 91, 92, 93, and 90% resistance with the defense mod, and with the damage control. The tank is the hit points 21 million, 97, 97, 98, and 97. Pretty solid. Basically, you will be immortal for about 18 seconds, and the DPS is 5.5 thousand, which is really nice. Okay, let's dock, and then we can go to another build. Now I have dual capacitor batteries here. Triple adaptives, one damage control, dual capacitor batteries, and dual boosters. Should work really well. You will still have really nice shield resistances, and you have this build with triple batteries. Should also have pretty good resistances, and this build with one damage control also should be really nice. Now, you can also use the shield extenders or armor plates if you're a armor tank. And I have 753,000 hit points on the shield. Let's undock and let's see how much tank and how much hit points I get out of this build. I personally prefer to have the reactive hardener, and I mostly go with a full-on resistance build, but having a mix between a lot of shield and a lot of resistances might be a good choice in some situations. Okay, now didn't have time to actually do this, but here we can admire the ship for a second. I know that these ships are currently really new and really rare, so it's nice to get a good look on them. Okay, everything is enabled. That one sneaky adaptive on the second page, almost missed it. 7.4 million hit points, 5.5 thousand DPS, 89, 91, 92 and 87% resistance, which is, I would say, pretty good, pretty solid. Now when you activate the extenders, you will not see much added on the ship, which is kind of funny. It basically adds like 5% per activation, so back in the day it would be a lot different, but the extenders have been changed in the last April. Now, if you're an armor tank, you can easily go with the thermal circulation and you can get extra 20% armor resistances, which is nice for armor tanks, but this is a shield tank in this case, so I'm not going to be using this implant. The other implant that does work really well is the drone bomb implant, which is right over here, and you can use the drone bombs very easily. You can change them to be remotely reloaded, so that you don't have to dock the fighters in order to reload, which is very nice, but you will lose 150% of the DPS, which is a pretty fair trade-off, I would say. And well, these were the general units that I have. Now you can easily swap the units in the unit that you need. Basically, very, very tactical, and they do improve the performance a bit. Although having more than two is not really necessary. I would say having two of them is actually perfect. On my ships, I never use more than two. In some cases I don't even use them because I don't really need them, but nice to have, and it can help out in some situations. Okay, now I did change the units for extenders, and now I got a little bit more shield hit points. The tank is roughly the same, the DPS is the same. The capacitor will be a little bit lower because I improved the booster performance. It boosts 22,000 every 7.7 seconds, which for a carrier is pretty solid. Now, since this is a angel ship and angels are known to be very fast, I did slap one afterburner just to see how fast this thing can go. Now, usually carriers are big ships, they're slow, and having an afterburner on them is not really going to do much because in the end you're still not going to move very quickly. Now, with the Mimitar carrier and with the angel carrier, that is actually not that bad idea to use an afterburner, because you can get battleship speeds out of this thing. And let me show you what I'm talking about. So the Battleground with the afterburner goes about 380 meters per second, so that's basically the slowest battleship, and this thing goes almost 600 meters per second, has 6 million hit points, really good shield resistances, and well, it's faster than most battleships with an afterburner, which is hilarious. This is a 3-kilometer long monster, and it actually goes pretty quickly for a big ship. 18 million hit points with the damage roll, 97, 97, 97 and 96% resistances, which is again pretty solid, and I'm pretty happy with this result. Now let's try out this ship with a micro updrift. Now the capital micro updrift is not really the same as the sub-capital macro updrifts, mostly because this thing will suck your capacitor dry so fast, it's not even funny. So an afterburner is okay, but a micro updrift will require you to have multiple batteries, and probably will require you to change the general units in order to compensate for the lack of capacity that you will encounter with a micro object, but let's see how fast this thing can go. 1 kilometer per second, 1062.43 meters per second. This thing is fast, and this capital ship is moving faster than some battleships with the micro Updrift. This is funny, and yeah, you can make this thing go very fast, but the capacitor will be lowered and you will have to use multiple capacitor batteries in order to compensate for that. Now, I can improve the speed even more, by the way, and I will do that right now. Let me just find the micro warp drive general unit. I can get about 25% extra speed, so I could technically make the ship go 1261 meters per second, and that's exactly what I'm about to do, but the capacitor usage will be increased, so yeah, I don't expect this ship to be capacitor stable at all with this current build, but I will do it for the fun, just to show you that this thing can be very fast. With a different setup, with more capacitor batteries and with capacitor battery general units, this thing will be very much, I would say, closer to being capacitor stable. Almost 1.3 thousand meters per second. This is a very fast capital ship, and the capacitor 1 minute and 9 seconds. This is not a very good capacitor time on this ship at the moment, but you go 1.3 kilometers per second, which is ridiculous. You can technically do storylines pretty safely in low sec with this thing, because not many pirates can actually catch you that easily, and if they do catch you, well, you will kill them without a problem. Okay, well, let's have some fun with this new carrier. Now I will orbit with the micro Updrift, just to show you how much capacitor they use. 5.5 thousand DPS, which means that I should be clearing this pretty quickly. I have activated the capacitor battery. It's a smart choice to use the capacitor batteries alongside with the micro Updrift, because as you can see, every cycle of the micro Updrift depletes a lot of capacitor, and now I'm about at 57%, and the mission did not even start. So yeah, the micro Updrift will slowly deplete my capacitor, and that's not a very good thing, but again, this is me having fun with the build and with the ship, so over here I can show you what works and what doesn't work. This current build with a micro Updrift is, well, I personally don't really like it. 44,000 meters is the signature radius. You have the signature radius of a small asteroid, basically. 44 kilometers. That's a huge signature. And the capacitor is now at 48%. I have to turn off the micro Updrift to save the capacitor. However, in tactical positioning, it might be useful in a fleet where you have capital logistic ships that can give you remotely the capacitor. It might work really well, but right now, if solo and if you plan to run the ship with a micro Updrift, I would sacrifice a couple of the adaptives for more capacitor batteries, and would probably change the units to be more on the passive capacitor battery side, so that I have a lot of capacitor and a lot of capacitor recharge, so that the micro Updrift can run almost indefinitely. But the DPS so far are pretty satisfying. The drone bombs do really well. Now, we all know that the developers are going to release new implants very soon. I'm very curious to know what kind of implants they are. I personally expect the decomposer implants. I expect perhaps lightweight drone implants, but I think that the drone bombs are already working really well, so I don't personally expect to see any lightweight ship implants, but it's also a possibility. And I also expect a bunch of other implants, as well as new ships. I expect a lot of new things to be slowly added to the game. Next year will be fantastic for EVE, because we will probably get all the nice and new ships that I was waiting for a long time, and when that happens, well, I'll be one of the happiest players that is in the game. Now, one thing that you should do if you are flying these new carriers, you should change, and if you have the implant on level 30, of course, you should definitely change the level 30 secondary into the remote reload, because it's much more efficient. You will not lose any time waiting for the ships to return to the drone bay and then to be reloaded and then launched. It's a lot easier to just click on the reload remotely and you get the extra 150% alpha or 150% extra DPS on the drones and on the carrier. But I did not do that over here, so I had to retract the drones and then launch them back, which is time consuming, but 300% extra DPS, which in the longer run might not be even noticeable because you will lose the time in reloading. However, very good for defense against small ships that do end up tackling. Now, tackling one of these ships is very difficult. You might ask why. Well, these ships have basically drones, fighters, lightweight ships that have webs, scramblers, and probably a lot more in the future. So you're not fighting one carrier, you're fighting basically 5 ships. If the carrier wants your ship dead, there's a high chance that this carrier will kill your ship, even if it's tanky, because they have some really good DPS and overall they have a lot of points, so you can't really escape easily. I expect them to have about, I don't know, 12 points on average. A PvP faction carrier will have a lot of points, and in the medium slots you will have probably a lot of webs, neutralizers. I'm still waiting for the capital Nosferatus. It will make the Blood Raider carrier much more lethal. Now, one thing that you have to pay close attention here is the range of the drones, because above 100 kilometers, once you activate the defense module, you will not have range on some of the ships. So I have to approach, and looks like a 100 kilometer orbit is not going to work really well, which is okay, not a big problem. I can just approach the targets and keep on firing. That also works without a problem. About 100 kilometers might be the edge of the ship's orbit. So just to be safe, I would set about a 90 kilometer orbit, or you can use the drones that have over 200 kilometer range even after you activate the defense module. Now, the defense module is overall interesting. I like it. The one thing that I don't really like about the defense module is the long cooldown of 210 seconds or even more than that. Would prefer if it was a active module, so that it works constantly, and that would be, I would say, a lot more useful. But in the current state, in the current way how it's working, it's actually really solid. So I'm not really complaining about the module. I personally like it. Now, I do use the micro Updrift from time to time to orbit, because it's quite hilarious to see this monster move at 1 kilometer per second. Theoretically, could make this thing go 2 kilometers per second or even above that if I change the rigs, but then the capacitor will be practically non-existent, so in the end this setup might actually be pretty solid. After all, capital ships are not meant to be fast. Now this thing does warp very quickly. It does warp really quickly, and there is also the trick that you can do with the micro Updrift to basically insta warp. This thing can actually warp in reverse, and I think later on in this video I will show you how that looks. It's actually quite hilarious. Works really well with the micro Updrift and also works with the afterburner. Basically you just run one cycle, you align, you click align on the target destination, you run one cycle, you turn off the micro Updrift, and when the micro Updrift goes offline, you click warp and the ship should instantly go into warp. Doesn't matter if it's not aligned, it will just warp sideways or warp in reverse, which is hilarious but works. Haven't done that on the other carriers. It did not work for them, but it works for this one. I believe that's because of the extra warp acceleration. Should also work on the Angel Dreadnought that will be released in the future. Now, what is going to be the name of the Angel Dreadnought? I believe it's going to be called Archangel or something like that, because that's how the naming thing works on these ships. It will be named after an angel, that's for sure, but I'm not sure which one. We will find out in the future, of course. Okay, so far, you know, this thing does clear missions quite nicely. No complaints from me at all so far. Quite satisfied with how it works. However, like I mentioned on the previous carry video, I would not be using this solo in low sec. If I already had one of these ships, I would be lurking in low sec, where I know that I have pretty good defenses against pirates or against incoming ships. I will still be careful around the blue pilots, because some of them might actually be the blue tackle, and I can guarantee you one of these carriers will go down in such a way. Okay, now let me show you how the warp works. Okay, warp to the station. Let's run one cycle for the micro Updrift. And once the cycle ends, the ship should enter warp.
Warp drive
and the
active.
ship entered warp. A little bit sideways, but yeah, it entered warp. I will also, I believe I'll do multiple warps just to show you how this little trick works. It's actually quite funny. Let's warp to a planet. Let's see. Let's go to this one. Okay, approach. One cycle for the micro Updrift. And once the... Actually, it doesn't have to.
Active.
You just run that one cycle and... yeah, here we go. Ship is into warp. Now let's warp back to the station. The same trick will be applied this time. The ship will warp basically backwards. Let me show you if I can replicate this over here in this moment. Okay, let's approach the station. One cycle for the micro Updrift. Okay, and let's dock.
Warning, capacitor running low.
Warp drive active.
And the ship warped in reverse. Lovely. This is the angel magic that this thing can do. It's hilarious how it works. Alright, well, the Angel carrier is quite interesting. It's a very nice ship. I definitely do like it a lot. And overall, I would say you can easily go for this ship, because it doesn't matter which one you choose, all of them will work really well. It's only important that you have
Docking
the
request
skills for them,
accepted.
because skills do make these ships work really well, and in the future when we get more modules for them, I believe that the DPS on these monsters will be significantly increased. So I'm definitely looking forward for the new modules, for the new, I would say, drone speed and drone DPS modules that are currently lacking. And well, with that being said, hope that this video could help you at building your own Dreadnought, your own carrier. My apologies, not really sure why I said Dreadnought there, but hope that the builds you see here are helpful. And of course, I hope that you enjoyed this little run with the Vassago. And with that being said, stay safe, fly safe, and as always, I'll see you next time.